Hi, here's my Module 4 presentation. I interviewed three different people, a administrator who is an assistant principal, a special education teacher who is in the life skills room, and a para educator who was with a boy who was paralyzed from the neck down. Um, so I got a lot of different feedback from them, and I'm excited to share it with you. So the child find procedures. Administrators, the one that I talked to, said that they usually have a meeting and they make sure that everybody is on the same page. And they also bring in a lady, her name's Susan Severin, and she watches the child to see their habits and kind of talk about and analyze what they need to do for that child. When I talked to the SPED teacher, she talked about how the co-op sends info via emails. There's public awareness. They have Facebook. We have a system that sends out voicemails, calls people. They also text and email. And then the co-op offers service from ages 3 to 21. The para, she didn't know what child find procedures were. She had no idea. What's the most challenging part of the job for each of these three? The administrator. He talked about how what they do becomes a bargaining tool, and they're not exactly doing what's best interest for the student. They're trying, but what they have to do is bargain their way to get what they want. So that becomes really, really complicated for them. The paperwork for the special ed teacher, everything's changing. She said that she felt when they finally knew what was going on, they got all the paperwork going, they're juking and jiving, something changes. So that's really hard for her. She said in her situation, since she's in the life skills room, there's no curriculum. So it's a challenge for her to make sure that she can um, make the right curriculum for her kids. And also, the money problem runs into that situation for her. The para. So, since she's with a child that's in a wheelchair, she had to give him physical therapy every day. So, she was expected to do that to stretch him, but she was not supported by the school if she accidentally injured the student, and she could be sued for that. So she ultimately decided this last year to stop being a para and then become a um, substitute teacher just because she wasn't a licensed PT and she had to give this kid services that she wasn't certified to do. The most rewarding part, the administrator. He talked about how the growth of their social and emotional perspectives, it's so rewarding, and you can see that. The administrator is with that kid, they see him all the time, and they can really tell that growth from freshman year to senior year. The SPED teacher, watching these kids go across the stage at graduation. So this last year, we went to graduation, and those kids that are in her class, they are so excited. It's so sweet and so awesome just to see them walk along with their peers and to watch them achieve what they've been working so hard towards. Because their smiles and their giggles are so priceless. It's the most awesome thing. And also, she talked about how sometimes these kids will work on a skill for a long period of time, and when they um, master that skill, it's really rewarding. And also, she kind of went and talked about the parent piece of it. She has really good parents that listen and take what she has to say into consideration, and she also takes what they have to say into consideration. So I think it goes both ways where they need to work together and make sure that they both have trust in each other. And then the para. She loved watching that kid succeed in class. That student had a 4.0 when she was his para, and she got compliments all the time about how well she was helping him. And she also loved when he got compliments on how well he was doing. So she said it was really heartwarming to be noticed and for her child, her student, to be noticed for how hard he was working. So she felt very helpful and felt like she was doing what she needed to do for that child. Advice on supervision. So the administrator said that you need to be very patient and take nothing personal. A lot of times those kids will come swinging or saying very mean things to you. I've seen it happen to an administrator before. You just have to have tough skin, and sometimes what they're doing is out of your control. I mean, a lot of times it is. You can't make them do what you want them to do. You just can't. They're in their own control. The SPED teacher, she talked about the paras, that you have to treat them as equals. So a lot of times I think paras will get into a classroom and they are treated as if they're just there to babysit, which is very sad. I don't want any teacher to do that. To me, I try to look at it as kind of a co-teach. That's basically what it is. I tell her what she needs to be doing with that student or with a group of students, and we both do our thing, and we communicate and make sure that we're all on the same page. The SPED teacher also talked about have them make decisions, and then she never tells them or makes them do something that she wouldn't do. So I teach aquatics, and we had a 30-day session where I brought in her class, and we got in the pool, and we had the pairs get in the pool with us, and we played games and worked on our swimming skills, and she got in. She didn't just make her pairs get in. She got in and she helped those kids. So I think that's really an awesome trait for her to have, is she's not going to make anybody do something she doesn't want to do. And then she also says that you need to make sure that they understand their role and responsibility. They're all part of a team, and they just want that kid to be successful. The para said that they need to be supportive and in contact. So communicate. They need to know exactly what's on the IEP, and they need to be able to help those paras with the IEP, because some of them don't know or have never used one, or they're new to the job and they have no idea what they are. So it's important that like the SPED teacher, the administrator lets the paras in on what's going on, and that they collaborate to work towards that success. How do you work with parents of special needs? The administrator talked about communication. That's the biggest key thing that all three of them really talked about, was that you have to communicate and have an open line. The transition visit that he talks about is, we have a program that after you graduate high school, you can go to transitions, which you go and you learn some more of those life skills and you keep continuing your education. It's kind of like when a regular ed kid graduates and goes to college, some of these special needs kids graduate high school and they go to transition. So that's going to prepare them for a job, help them get interviews, help them get on a track where they can work towards a job or a career. And then the SPED teacher, she communicates daily with her parents. It's key to the success. They need to know what their expectations are for the students. And she talked a lot about how sometimes what she says they don't want to hear, but they know that she really is advocating for those kids and knows what they need to be successful. She also asked their input. The parents need to have some input on what their child is doing, because that just keeps them engaged and keeps them in the loop of what their child is doing. The para, if she ever had a conflict or concern, she included the supervisor and the parent, just because she felt that she wanted another set of eyes or ears in on that conversation, and she felt like they were always very supportive in her when she had to do something like that. How do they work with regular education teachers? So the administrator, they give support and make sure everyone is on the same page. You never want to blindside a teacher, a parent, or an administrator with an IEP or in an IEP meeting. So before you give them an IEP, you make sure that they have it and they know what's going on and what they're really going to talk about when those parents and the child gets there. The SPED teacher, she knows that she needs to let everyone know that she has an open door. And if anybody has any questions about a student, that they can always come in and talk to her, shoot her an email, or give her a call. They sent out the snapshots, so that's just a brief thing of what that IEP has, so you know the general idea of what their needs might be. The para, she spent a lot of time in PE classes with her student that was in a motorized wheelchair, and she always was in constant communication with the PE teachers about what he could and what he couldn't do, and they collaborated really well. So I know that they did because I was down there a lot. I'm a PE teacher, and I would walk through and he would be in there playing games, rolling around on a scooter. It was pretty fun to see. The kids all included him, and if there was a day where it was no possible way that he could probably do what they were doing, they modified and did something that he could do, or they would go to the fitness center and he would, pick things up and put them in a different area. They'd play some kind of game that he could do. What advice would you give? So the administrator, he gave me really clear, concise advice: do a lot of listening and little talking. That's all he said. You need to be there to learn, especially in your first year, because there is so much information that's going to be new to you. So try not to get out there and just run the show, but listen and run the show how you need to run it. Okay. And then the special ed teacher, getting to know the students is really important for her class. The administrators, they do a really good job of like going in, and some days her class will be doing a cooking segment or lesson. The administrators will get their aprons on and they'll go in there and do it with them. So it's really fun to see the connections that they build, because that's how her students thrive. And the SPED teacher in her class, they have a lot of things that they can do outside of the school and in the community. So it's important that the administrators are supporting that, and that they also go out there and interact and participate if they can. And then also understanding the laws and requirements of the IEPs, because when you're in those meetings, you have to be knowledgeable. The para said, get to know your special ed teachers and what they need. How can you make their job easier? And if you can support them in any way, try to find what you can do. It's very important to be there and support them and make sure that they're getting what they're needing. How do you describe the role of a SPED teacher and the building principal? So the administrator said that the building principal is supposed to keep the special ed teacher happy. They are hard to find and keep, so you better treat them like that. I think that's very true. A lot of times the special ed teacher has another certification in their back pocket that they're waiting for. I know that there's several in our school that are PE and SPED or social studies and SPED, and if that job would open, I'm sure that they would move over. So if they're treated like they don't want to lose them, they're probably not going to leave that spot. The SPED teacher said they're teammates. They have to work together for the common success. So the communication is very key, and the admin have a lot on their plate. So it's sometimes hard to find that time to meet, but it's important that you make the time. The para said that the role of the SPED teacher and supervisor is crucial. They must collaborate and seek students of all types of backgrounds. So seek what's best for them and make sure that you can collaborate and work towards that goal. What characteristics do you seek in aspiring administrators? So timeliness. SPED always has deadlines, and if you don't meet those deadlines, you find yourself in trouble, is what the administrator talked about. The SPED teacher said, don't hesitate to interact with a student with special needs. I've personally been around children with special needs my whole life, and I think it's so important that you treat them like you would treat anybody else. If you treat them like an outcast, they're going to feel like an outcast, and I would never want someone to feel that way. So she also talked about how you need to be compassionate, but also firm. And some of those kids just want to have some attention, some affection, someone to ask about their day or ask them what